go to work at a large company, learn anything and everything you can about running a business. And then from there, you can kind of spin out if you ever wanted to and take over one company. So that's what I did. So right out of school, I had a friend who was working at a company called Computer Associates, which was a very large software company on Long Island. I lived on Long Island. And the role was a telesales rep in their Islandia headquarters. And for me, I went through the technology. I was like, I love this, right? So they pay you to do this. I'm in.
Raise the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. Start converting your B2B audience today. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started today at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, this is Ryan Leary, William Tincup, and you are listening to Inside the C-Suites. We are speaking with Adam Famularo today. Adam is the CEO of WorkFusion. Adam, welcome. How are you today?
Yeah, great to see you again.
As you, where are you in the world today?
Today, I'm in our New York City headquarters, so right on the corner of Broadway and 41st Street. So a nice view of Bryant Park and Times Square.
Oh, that's beautiful. There's a new experience thing in Times Square. It's like Rise New York, NY, Rise NY. Have you heard about this?
I have not.
So in Times Square.
You dreaming this up?
No. You gotta talk to someone from Texas to explain shit that happens in New York City. In Times Square, it's Rise, RIZENY, and it's experiential. You know, all these new kind of experiential museum type stuff.
Okay.
So they take you through the history of New York City.
I gotta check it. That sounds like fun.
It looks dope.
I'll tell you,
like
the
really,
big thing
cool.
that's throwing New Yorkers off right now is, have you heard of the portal?
Yeah.
So
what's the portal?
There's a portal connection, which is really just like a live FaceTime between downtown New York City and Dublin.
Right.
And it's people all day long looking through this screen and doing things to each other through this screen.
Yeah.
And seeing the people in Dublin, and they're seeing you.
And it's the same bit.
That's actually pretty cool.
There's people trying to run through the screen. There's people flashing people, just like New Yorkers in Dublin.
I can see back in the old days where this would be really not a good idea. Times Square back then was not a safe place for children.
Is it safe now?
Yeah,
it's a good environment.
Yeah, it's pretty touristy.
Yeah. It's kind of gotten back to the pre-pandemic days.
Yeah, we don't have good relations with people in New York. We look at New York people as just completely negative and bad.
Those Philly people, Philly.
Yeah.
I get it.
Although I will say, I do. If you're a basketball fan, I am a fan of Brunson, and I was hoping you guys would actually take. You've got the Villanova connection, so they became our adopted team after you put us out of our misery.
There you go.
Yeah.
And my daughter goes to Penn State, so I have a lot of Pennsylvania in me too.
See,
there we go.
We can get together.
Mutual.
We all just get along.
And I pronounced his name correct. I could even say Famularo.
Ooh, very nice.
There you go.
Nice.
Well done. You're hanging out with your Italian friends.
Yeah, there's some influence there. So what are you doing now? Tell us a little bit about the gig right now that you have.
So my latest challenge. So I took over a company called WorkFusion about 2.5 to 3 years ago. The company had some brilliant technology focused on, we're not getting too technical, something called IDP, or Intelligent Document Processing,
right? And
AI machine learning technology out of MIT labs. And really what they were doing at that point in time was they were selling this platform that can do anything for anybody.
Right.
And after going out and studying the customers, understanding what was working and not working, we focused in on financial crimes, where we had a specific use case, a specific problem that we can solve for our customers, and really packaged up our technology as what we call digital workers, which is what we believe is the new age of technology, where AI working alongside of humans. And we're the first to do that. We actually named and packaged our software personas of people.
Right.
So Tara, who's doing transaction screening, and Evelyn, who's doing entity transactions and adverse media. And we have about 7 different digital workers that you can hire to come to work for your company to help you stop the bad guys and fight financial crimes.
Did I dream this that you did that y'all had one that was going through actuarial tables and then finding irregularities and then kicking them to humans, and then humans basically saying yes, no, and then so the Tara or Jenny or James or whomever would then learn from that to then see get smarter?
You are dead on. Absolutely right. Yeah. So the notion is that these are digital workers that are doing the jobs of these L1 analysts, really like co-pilot, working alongside of those workers and doing the tasks that people don't want to do. It's that remedial work. And then they pull in their coworker when they're either stuck on something or they want something double checked. And then based upon those learnings, there's something called human in the loop. It trains itself to get smarter and better over time. So usually, like when a company hires Tara to come to work, she out of the box, she'll be like 50% trained and automated. And then over the course of time, she'll go to 60, 70, 80, even up to 90% automation that's coming out of Tara from the work that she's doing.
And is it sold like in a SaaS model, or is it a staffing model? Like, what's the way that it's purchased?
I would actually say it's kind of like a blend of the two. So the one component of it being like a staffing model is you pay for the work that Tara does,
right?
And only the work that she does. So the notion is, as you save money, we make along those lines,
right?
And then we do view it as though you hire Tara to come to work. So there's a whole onboarding Tara, getting her implemented, trained in the environment, and really get the humans to understand their role working with Tara going forward.
This is fascinating.
I know.
Absolutely. And listening, Adam, to you talk about Tara, it's almost as if she's sitting next to you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like she has grown on you. She is your friend.
And for our customers, that's how they feel. They literally feel like look, they have brought her into their company, and she is part of their team. That's the most important part. That's why we gave her a name and a face and an identity. And we're going even further on that in the future, with giving her a backstory, and you can really understand who she is and what she's doing, and really have her as part of your team. Because that's the way that she grows and gets smarter and smarter and becomes an even better contributor as part of an organization function.
Now, I would say, can Tara or Evelyn? I know this isn't use case. We'll jump into you in a moment, but can Tara or Evelyn or any of the other personas, can they sit inside of a meeting, take part of the meeting, and actually give recommendations?
Yeah, they're not there yet. What they are doing is they're actually physically doing the work when or if you're even in the office. So like you might be home at night and Tara's still going through and
there's no breaks, there's no union, there's no employment laws for Tara.
Exactly right. And then the next day when you would log in, Ryan, you would go, okay, Tara, what'd you do? And you would see all the work effort that Tara did over the night. And there might be some approvals in there. There might be some things that Tara's asking you for questions that you're answering. So you're improving her model. Right now, that's all almost like you were communicating via like text message, right? Like you would read, decipher, and go. What we're trying to do is make that experience even closer and get it to a point where Tara would set up a meeting on your calendar. Tara would call you. Tara would talk to you. So we're trying to get it to that kind of level next.
Last thing before we go backwards, human in the loop. Ryan and I did a podcast a couple weeks ago where we were talking a little bit about this, and we've been talking about FOBO, fear of being obsolete. So these two are obviously in concert with one another, because a lot of people, I can see them, and we can see them kind of fearing that they will or would, or some of what their job is becoming obsolete. Human in the loop is actually taking that, putting maybe a Xanax on that and saying, okay, first of all, chill out. There's a bunch of work that you don't want to do.
Yep.
that you don't really need to be doing. You don't want to be going through these really extensive Excel spreadsheets or whatever else. And, oh, by the way, you might make errors that they're not going to make. So there's other places for you, like the humanization or human. You get to place that human in a different place and in a much better place.
That's right.
So if I've got any of that wrong,
Will, that was dead on. I couldn't say it any better than you just described it.
okay,
For our customers, we have not seen anybody go in and go, okay, we're removing staff now that we have Tara. We have not seen it yet. What we have been seeing and hearing is the other side of that coin. The first are like the smaller to mid-sized companies that are like, look, we can't afford to increase our employee population just because the number of sanctions are growing in the marketplace. We need these digital workers to augment our workforce, right? And they're looking to grow using our digital workers as kind of like that variable work nature, right? So let me ramp up my work effort by using digital workers. So that's the first part. And then the second part, the larger banks and financial services institutions, they just want to be able to do more work, process more work, and show the auditors that they're actually touching more and doing more. So that's where they're coming at it. So I have not seen any yet that have been doing it as purely a cost-cutting measure in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I look at this is interesting because as we talk to a lot of people about this, I look at this as reinvigorating the work for a portion of the working population at a company. Someone who doesn't want to do these 25 different things is now able to have a digital employee partnering with them to get this done. It reinvigorates them to do their job better, allows them to take on a different role, and we know that most of the workforce needs to be trained on this stuff moving forward, and this allows them to be trained and grow along with the employee. And then maybe at some point they manage 10 of them.
Well, imagine when cruise control was first introduced in cars. So there's a bunch of car heads out there that were like, no, I want to drive the car.
Yeah.
I'm going from here to Toronto, and I want to drive the entire way. And it's flat, and it's straight, and it's boring, but I want my hands on the wheel. And all of a sudden, someone invents cruise control that says, yeah, you know what? Just kind of hit a button, set a speed, and just kind of sit back and, ease back and let the car do the car thing.
Yeah.
And you can kind of do other stuff. There's going to be people that at first are going to be against that just because it's a technology shift, just because of the adoption curve. And then there's other people that are going to see it for what it is and go, wait a minute, I can do all of these things, consume more data, get more things done, and have the human actually fact checking or double checking to make sure the math's right. Why can we start tomorrow?
Yeah, right on.
Makes sense to me.
I can see when you talk to prospects, they either get it immediately or they don't. And if they don't, it's like, you know what? Good call. Talk to you later.
We'll be back. Because we'll get it in the future, but we'll be back. And you guys are right on. And that's exactly what it's like today.
Well, let's go backwards. Ryan, let's learn a little bit about his journey. Sorry to interrupt, Adam.
Yeah, let's do it.
Would you like me to start?
Yeah, let's go back. I mean, little Adam, right? I mean, so we have to go that far back.
Oh boy,
that's a little creepy, right? Little Adam, right?
You just had a Talladega Nights moment in my head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's got some sweat beads coming down his head.
Baby Jesus.
Yeah. So okay. So why don't let's maybe start to walk through. Not everybody can rise to the level of CEO of any company, let alone a company like WorkFusion that's kind of bleeding edge. How did we get here? What's the driving factor behind you in motivating you to go this direction?
So I guess we will go back a little bit in time here to the starting point. I grew up, the son of an entrepreneur and the son of an educator. Right? So it was my mother and father. So I was always surrounded by either one side, which was the value of education, and then the other side of building and developing businesses.
Right.
So that's kind of what I grew up within. And I definitely experimented more on building and developing businesses even as a kid through like So one of the businesses that my father built during his free time on the weekends was something called ice flows, or if you go to like a 7-Eleven and you get a Slurpee. Before that even existed, they were called ice flows, and he sold them exclusively to these ice skating rinks, or say roller skating rinks. And that was like a big business boom back I'm going back to the 80s now, so the mid 80s into the early 90s. And he built this big business on it. And it was one of those like original, I'll rent you the machine, you buy the syrup, I keep selling you the syrup on an ongoing basis.
Genius.
And that was one of his businesses. Why I bring up that business was because for him to be able to do that, he always had to have machines in the garage. Right. So for me as a kid, these machines in the garage that were hooked up took a couple things to actually get it working. And I started selling ice flows to kids on the block. So until my mother caught a box of like a couple $100 in singles under my bed and yelled at me for doing this and took the money away and said, you got to give this back. And she felt like that was wrong. I should have been giving that away for free. But that was my first entrance into kind of entrepreneurialism.
Why for free?
She felt
she's
like
an educator.
Something that we had, right? So we had it. We can give it to others. You shouldn't be charging them. Right. Me looking at it going, shoot, I can make some money on this and buy some more baseball cards.
Yeah.
So that's the notion of kind of where I started in this.
Did you keep any of your baseball cards?
I actually still do have them.
Me too.
I do have them in my attic, all the way in the back.
Oh yeah.
I have 3 daughters at home, so nobody has any interest in them.
None.
But
Zero.
Someday, maybe their kids will like them.
Maybe there's a grandson in the works at one point that you can say these things that you'll never know about existed, and here's Hank Aaron's that signed.
Yes.
Anyhow,
just
put it in a safe deposit box.
They're buried up there.
That's too funny. What did you want to be? So when you were growing up, what was the dream?
Look, I always, when I was growing up watching my father, build and run these businesses, I always thought I would take over kind of one of those businesses. When it was my turn and I finished, I focused on business economics, was my master's. I always loved computers. So my father always made sure we had the most latest technology in the household. Cool. I was playing with the Commodore 64s. I was writing code back then. You had to actually run the applications. But it was, that was always what surrounded me. So I was like a couple classes away from having a minor in computer science. And I even was tinkering with going to law school. I actually took the LSATs and was thinking of that. But the more I kind of talked through it, the number of lawyers that were out there really didn't, satisfy where I was trying to do. When I went through the thing with my father, he was like, listen, go to work at a large company, learn anything and everything you can about running a business. And then from there, you can kind of spin out if you ever wanted to and take over one company. So that's what I did. So right out of school, I had a friend who was working at a company called Computer Associates, which was a very large software company on Long Island. I lived on Long Island. And the role was a telesales rep in their Islandia headquarters. And for me, I went through the technology. I was like, I love this, right? So they pay you to do this. I'm in. And I can talk to people and work with people and try to solve problems and most importantly, learn. And that's what I did. So it was like literally 1 week out of school, I started at CA. And that was really my kind of growing ground, right? So I really grew up learning how to sell software. And I did it over the phone, selling $1 million product called Unicenter TNG, which to me was mind-numbing. It was literally a CD-ROM that we would sell. That was the TNG framework. And we would create this construct of how we can manage real-world devices. And I wound up doing really well in that sales environment. And I wound up growing, up and through the sales organization at CA.
Wow, they had a big presence in Dallas. I remember them. There was a building in downtown, outside of downtown Dallas, but it was a big headquarters. Yeah. Not a headquarters. It was a big office space.
Yeah, no, we definitely did. I think that was actually one of the ones we acquired through Platinum with Sterling.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was such a fast-paced great growth environment. And for me, education was always still a big important thing for me. It was continuous.
Yeah, you were just a sponge.
Learning. Yeah, and that's everybody actually used that advice, Will, was be
Yeah.
a sponge. Just be a sponge. Take it all in, learn as much as you can, put it into practice. And really, that's what I did for my first series of years as I kind of went through the chain. I always felt like, so there was my first, kind of fork in the road was, do you go direct sales or channel sales? CA was predominantly a direct sales company. That's how
Right.
most of the company was built and formed. But I always loved channels because it was around building businesses and building partnerships and bringing
Right.
different products with services together. So it was more kin to who I was. One of my father's businesses was a baked goods route where he was like a wholesaler, and he brought together all different kinds of baked goods and then delivered them to retail businesses in Brooklyn. So that really kind of pulled me in. So my inkling was to go into this notion of channels and building and developing businesses. And that's kind of where my first road forked in my career.
Hey, it's Paris. I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
Tuesday on NBC, Jimmy Fallon and Bozma St. John host the highly anticipated new competition show.
I hired 10 creatives from all walks of life. They will be battling it out to see who can impress the world's biggest brands.
This is a huge opportunity.
This is the battle for the next big idea.
This is not play.
We're spending millions of dollars.
I'm so excited to embark on this adventure with all of you.
May the best idea win!
On Brand with Jimmy Fallon. Series premiere Tuesday on NBC.
And then from there, my second big road was when my father actually had a heart attack. Thankfully, he survived it.
Right.
But when he had that heart attack, it was a point of kind of no return. CA was great. I left CA for a couple of weeks. I helped run the business. I also helped him package up the company and ultimately sell it. But for me, that was do I want to take this over and run it? Or do I want to continue on my path at CA? And I, as you can tell, I chose the CA route. I very clearly was like, look, I just got into management. I saw the path forward there. I truly loved what I was doing. And once I did that, that was it, man. The bridge was burnt. There's only one way forward, and it's going to be in technology for the rest of my career. So that was the next big move for me.
Do you regret not taking over the family business?
It's
a good question.
It is.
I know, it's great.
It is a good question.
Because
I'm sure I could have done something big and special with that as well.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, look, I saw how my father worked, and he worked like a dog. I mean, you're talking about a person who, he probably worked 16 to 18 hours a day, every day, through weekends.
Right.
He wasn't able to really travel with us, have vacations. His vacations with us was when he would drive us to Mount Airy Lodge on a Saturday. He would drop us off there, and then would come pick us up the next Saturday.
Right.
Or drive us out to the Hamptons where they rented a house some summers, and then would come pick us up the week later. And I really, the more I thought about that, I said to myself, I know I can do more with my family and my kids. And,
right.
It was a hard decision, but actually I think my father helped me make that decision and kind of pushed me on to, doing really what you love and what you have a passion for. And it was the right move for me, Ryan, at that time.
Right.
So what was after CA? What did we do after CA?
So the finish it, the journey at CA, I guess the other important point just I'll touch on is I was always the youngest. I was the youngest VP in CA's history. I was the youngest SVP and general manager. One of the important lessons I learned there for anybody that's looking to climb, especially a large company, I always used education as kind of that piece that set me apart. So like the first time I went back for my MBA was early 2000s, and I got an MBA in management. And by the time I finished that program, I was then able to get promoted into a management role and then a VP role. And not that I didn't have confidence in myself that I could do it, but it gave the other people that were promoting me confidence to give me a chance. And then my next big move, I was eyeing on this from the beginning. So my goal was always to be the CEO of a software company. If anybody ever asked me, I always said that. I want to be a CEO of a software company. And I wasn't afraid to say it because I kind of felt like, it drove me. That was my driving factor. So in doing that, I spoke to a lot of other people that became CEOs of software company. And one of the pieces that I learned from a couple of them were an MBA is good, but an MBA from a top tier school is a different level. And you almost need that to give other people bigger confidence in you.
Right.
So I pushed really hard my CEO and COO to sponsor me to go through this HBS program, which was like their version of their executive MBA.
Right.
And I applied for it. I got in. I was the youngest actually in the program at 31. The average age was 45. I left my wife home with a 3-year-old and a 3-month-old, and she still won't let me forget that to this day.
Fair statement.
Moved in my in-laws to live with them, and I went back to school. And it was 2 months on site at HBS, and it was 7 days a week. It was 6 days of classes, a day of reading and preparing for the next week. So you couldn't come home. So you were there. It was a month. Prep work and prep classes and stuff, then a month on site, then a month back doing case studies, and then a month back to graduate until you graduate. And that was the program. I did that. I graduated in November of 2007, and that was my other big break at CA. So when I came back from that program, after I literally had to leave work for 4 months, CA paid me. CA paid for the program. They were absolutely fantastic. They made me sign an agreement that if I left within the 2-year period, I would pay it back. But look, that was worth the weight in gold. Mm-hmm. And that, like, the program. I mean, my professors were like they're like historians, like Michael Porter, who does competitive advantage, and Clay Christensen with an innovator's dilemma. John Cotter was one of my favorites, who wrote about change and change management. He was like, look, he was the youngest professor at HBS, and he's like, I'm studying change because any CEO that's going to take over a company needs to know how to change.
100%.
Right? You're not coming into a perfect situation. So he was great. Bill George, who teaches leadership, he was these were my professors. And then the people in my program were all C-level executives from around the world. So I got this amazing network of people that I got close to, as well as these amazing professors, which kind of set me up for the next stage of my career. When I came back to CA, my CEO, of course, then sponsored me to take over a business. So that was the first time that I moved into general manager role. And now I'm running sales, marketing, development, support. I find this is where I crossed over into running development teams, product management, product marketing. And I wasn't just a go-to-market expert. Now I've crossed
Did you have you had P&L? So you had
full P&L. I ran it as the CEO of the business. The only thing I didn't have, I had like financial, I had my own kind of CFO that was a dotted line. I had my own head of HR that was like a dotted line, but I ran the rest of the business as the CEO of the business. Yeah. And that was awesome. That was really setting me up for my own CEO role on that.
So Adam, a question about the education piece. A lot of people who may feel like they want to be on the same path as you. They want to lead just any company. They just want to lead a company at some point in their career, and they're teetering. Do I go back for education, or do I just go get real world practical experience and work my way up the ladder? They're getting information from all areas of people and things, and not a lot of that makes sense to them. Mm-hmm. It sounds like you stand on the side of education, but maybe what advice would you give those people who are listening that have that dilemma going back and forth?
Yeah, look, to me, I think you need both. I really, truly do believe you need both. The real world experience, look, I use to this day, right? Every CEO that you have is a CEO with a background. You could have a CFO CEO. You could have a CMO CEO. I am a go-to-market and a product CEO. I can define and develop and establish products, as well as then align the go-to-market behind them. That's my strength. But I'm not a CFO or a COO or a CMO CEO. So I'm a specialty niche CEO doing this specific thing that I do really well. So I couldn't do that without that real world experience, right? right? That's, 20
Mm-hmm.
years of experience of, 10 on the sales side, another 10 on the development and product marketing, product management side. That notion is really kind of core to who I am as a being and as a leader. But for me to then package that up as a real CEO, having that education to go along with it, that, you might know half of it, but it kind of levels you off and you get grounded on all of the material and truly knowing and understanding the organizational principles and how it works. And not that I need to know my CFO's job, but I need to understand the backdrop behind his construct of how he makes decisions. So I'm working alongside him as a partner. So you do need to know and understand that part. Does that make sense?
100%.
Yeah, it does. And so just one more question about that, about the education piece. I think it could be important and helpful for people. How did your conversation go when you approached CA and convinced them to sponsor your program?
Yeah.
Brian, he started in sales.
Yeah, I know where he started, but there's still a conversation. There's still a conversation that has to happen, right?
Dude, he sold it.
Because a lot of people, they won't do that because of all the student loan debt and things like that.
Ryan, it's a good question. And it does come
Thank you. See?
It does come with some of the confidence. And I think that's where Will was coming from. Look, I did package it up, but I didn't have to be a seller to package it up.
Right.
But to me, you need to have a clear vision, right? Where do I want to get to? My clear vision was I want to be a CEO of a software company. So for me, I met with the CEO multiple times. He's still a good friend of mine named John Swings. And I say, John, my goal is to be you. I want your job. How did you get there? What can I do better, more to get there? And since I had a track record of success in my prior roles, I was able to show, look, you know what? I've been the youngest VP. And sales side, I was a VP for every type of sales. I've done OEM sales, channel sales, direct sales, inside sales, outside sales. I've studied every art of sales, right? I know the selling side inside and out. I want to cross over. I want to become a more product-grounded person before I take a CEO-based role. There is this program, when I've spoken to other CEOs, that have highly recommended it. For me to get it, this is what I'm going to need. I'm going to need to, escape CA for 4 months. I'm going to put somebody in there that's going to be able to do my role, my number 2, and coach him and get him. It'll be a chance for him to be groomed into that role. And I have a worked out arrangement with my wife where I'll be able to leave her home with the kids. And
she's going to lord it over you for the rest of your existence. But
she gets it now. Now she could see why I did it. Back then, it was a little bit more gray. But I painted that picture for him. And I made him part of that journey, right? He was part of that ride. So he was an enabler of it. So he came up with an idea of how to get it done internally and help me fund it and everything else. But you really need the desire, and you can't be afraid to ask.
Right.
You can't be afraid to ask. That was one of the other lessons in life, right? So all the different roles that I did get along the journey, nobody just came knocking and said, hey, Adam, you're doing a great job. Here's this new role. I asked for it. I stood up and said, look, I'm ready for this next role. And if they're to tell me I'm not ready, well, then tell me why. And what do I need to work on so that I can be ready for it when it is the time? But being open to having those dialogues of kind of being in that kind of self-aware point of where you are in your journey and being able to ask others around you, what do I need to improve to get to that next level of my career? You have to do that. You have to push yourself. Even if you're not extroverted, but you're introverted, you still need to be able to do those things to be able to drive yourself to that next level.
Do you get frustrated with salespeople? Either people selling you?
I guess I definitely have a little bit more. My wife says it all the time. She's like, you're the best person to sell to. Because anybody that calls me, I'll pick it up and go, okay, hit me. So I will give anybody a chance from a sales standpoint. And I always appreciate that because I grew up selling. It's kind of part of who I am. So I do have an appreciation for it. And as my wife says, I'm probably the best person for a salesperson to try to sell to because I'll give them a chance.
You'll pick up the phone because people picked up the phone for you.
Yeah. And you know what the trick to that, I always did this, and people still get me with it today, is you got to get the executives early.
Oh,
Any good executive is usually in the office early, anywhere from 7:30, 8 o'clock is usually the latest they'll be in the office. And what they're doing at the beginning of that day is they're planning their day. They're going through their calendar. They're understanding the people that they're meeting with. They're playing out any talking points. They're reading and catching up on email. That's the time when they'll have that extra minute or two to listen to something. And then when you do call, if you want to make it easy for yourself, get to what it means for them right away. Right away. Mm-hmm. Listen, Will, I'm calling because I have something that I think you will make your life easier. And here's what it is. And immediately it'll pull you in. You'll want to know what that is. Say, listen, just give me 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, you're good. We'll hang up, part ways. But 2 minutes, I think you'll be interested in this.
I just had a flashback to like the Wolf of Wall Street.
And I have a pen for you.
Sell me this pen.
That's a great scene. Yeah.
There's actually a guy in our industry, Adam, who was one of the partners in that firm.
Get out.
Yeah.
Not the top, but the he runs a company called 60 Million Jobs.
Wow.
It's a staffing firm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
70 million jobs. It's for people that have been previously incarcerated, and it's a staffing play.
What a great way! What a great way to give back. I love that.
I'm talking to him one day, and I'm like, all right, I've read the book, saw the movie, and he stops me right before I'm about to ask a question. He goes, dude, the stuff that they portrayed in the movie, that you think that was like once, we did that stuff every day. We threw midgets against the wall every day. I'm like,
this is where we get canceled here. Come on.
They watered it down. They watered it down to where it's like it wasn't even watchable for me, because they portrayed it as like this only happened occasionally. No.
It's crazy.
I'm like, he goes, everybody had massive amounts of cocaine on their desk, and you could just go by anybody's desk and go to cocaine. Hookers are coming in all the time. Like, they had an office next to their office that was for hookers. Like, I'm like, he's just blowing me away. I'm telling it. Anyhow, off topic. However,
important run businesses like that anymore. That's not.
No, you cannot. No, you cannot. Turns out. Yeah. So what did you do after you
build a company?
It is a culture. It's just maybe not the culture you want to be in. Yeah. So what after CA gave you the opportunity to run a P&L? What'd you do after that?
So after CA, I had to. So when I left CA, we left amicably. So I did sign a non-compete, so I wouldn't compete against them for a year, which was definitely a tough thing because CA sells everywhere. So I actually wound up joining another friend that was over at Verizon that needed help building their global channels and bringing their global channels together. So something at a completely different scale than I've ever done before. And this was a big scale. I think I started, it was like a $500 million business. By the time I finished, over a 2-year period, we were on a run rate to get to over $1 billion.
Wow.
And it was this massive kind of global channels role, which was fun for me because it kind of got back to a little bit of my roots, but also just learning something completely new and different, which was, Verizon Enterprise system. So it was a fun kind of time. But really what it did for me was a couple things. Outside of doing that, gave me time to also, I got into investing in technology companies. So I started one track of building, developing, and nurturing new companies from the ground up through personal investment as well as expertise. And I have, to this date, about a dozen companies that I work with from that time and experience. And then the second thing was it gave me time to see, like, CA was trying to divest this asset called Irwin, which was a data modeling tool. I, of course, was at Verizon. So I saw with their IoT devices the sheer amounts of data that was being created. So I created a bigger thesis statement around data and data governance and how, if we took these data modeling assets, we could use it as a foundation toward building a very large data governance software company. I pitched it to a private equity firm, and they bought it. And then me with them ran the cycle, and we bought the assets from CA. I then stepped down from Verizon, and I took over full-time to found and run a company that we called Irwin Inc., which became a large data governance software company. We bought 4 other companies to kind of round out my vision. We grew this thing to about 55, 60 million in size. And then we sold to Quest Software on the last day of December 2021.
Wow. My goodness. You've used the words vision 4 times. And no, first of all, it's great. It's not a bad thing. And I won't take us into a Wolf of Wall Street story.
No, it's all good.
So when I hear vision, I don't hear it a lot, quite frankly, from folks. Some people will talk about values or other types of things, but they don't talk about their vision enough. And the question that I want to get to is, do you think that is something that was taught to you or that you learned in terms of having a vision? Because I see in my own life, I see a lot of people, we interact with a lot of people, and vision doesn't come up.
Boy, Will. So
it's a nature versus nurture question.
Yeah,
of course,
this is a big one for me, and this is kind of deep rooted in me. So this is something that started with me when I wrestled. So I wrestled in high school and college, and I'll never forget. I went to a wrestling camp. I was probably it was either the summer. It was probably the summer after 9th grade or 10th grade. And I went to this wrestling camp. It was in the middle of Pennsylvania, Brian. I'm back to Pennsylvania.
There we
go. And I walked in there, right? I'm this young kid, and I've got my wrestling gear on. I'm kind of ready to go.
Yeah.
And they took us, and they said, "No, we're actually not going to wrestle right now." And they put us in a classroom. What the hell's going on? We
I didn't sign
money
up for
to
that.
wrestle. I didn't pay good money to sit in a classroom. I do that during the school year, and I don't like that. They said, listen, going out here and just wrestling without a purpose, without a vision, is inconsequential. You're just wrestling to wrestle. You need to understand what the big picture is that you're trying to get to. You need to vision where you're going to be in 5 years from now, in 10 years from now. And then you back into that and you build your plan, you build your goals, your objectives, and everything off of that bigger vision. And that's what they had us do. So we sat there, young kids in a classroom. I still have these notes from 25-year, 10-year, 5-year, 1-year vision, and then your goals and objectives that you need to accomplish to get to your 1-year plan. So now when you go into that wrestling room, you're wrestling with a purpose. There's a reason. So when you have a fallback, when you might lose to this person or you might get an injury, you overcome those things because your mindset is on the bigger vision and you work through all of the challenges that you're going to have. I took that lesson and I've applied that straight through life. And that absolutely is fundamental to who I am. As a person, I have a personal vision and goals. I've got an executive coach I meet with, on a monthly basis, and we go through my yearly goals, and then we break that down to monthly and how I'm doing and performing against those. Both personal as well as professional. And it's something that I would highly recommend anybody do, especially as a company. So from a company standpoint, you build the big vision for what you're trying to get to as a business, but then that vision then ties to the people that you hire and the people that you motivate to be aligned to that vision. So you talk about core values and all of those other things that you put in place, it all ties back to the vision. If people aren't bought into the vision, the old bigger goals for the organization, then they won't come with any ability to sacrifice, right? They won't understand that, well, yeah, I might have to put in this time and effort today and I don't like doing it, but it's going to help us get to this bigger vision. We all have to be aligned to that. And then importantly for those individuals, and I really believe in this strongly, is for me to motivate those individuals, I need to understand their goals. What are their objectives? And do they align to that vision? Right? And if they do, then that's great and purposeful, and I can work with them to get to those goals because those goals are aligned to the vision. And if they're not, then I should help them go somewhere else where they're more properly aligned to the vision of the company.
Ryan, if the audience listens to nothing other than that segment,
That's right.
That's gold. That's just gold.
That's
I don't
enough.
have anything else. Do
There you
you?
go.
What do you have?
Adam, I can ask you a bunch of questions, but I think, you've got plenty to do today, and we're probably out of time, but this has been fantastic.
It has
We've
been
learned
fantastic.
a lot. This has
I'm
actually been a very good conversation. We have some not so
Oh
good
yeah.
conversation.
Thank you so much for carving out time for us.
Oh, you're welcome, Bill. It's always a pleasure spending time with you. Ryan, pleasure meeting you as well.
Yes.
And look, these are great for me too. It makes me reflect, right? This is part of reflection as a leader.